Thomas, it's up for grabs now! Thomas!
Magic ball from Bergkamp to Patrick Vieira!
Oh, would you believe it? Oh, right, what a way to get it!
Fabulous solo goal by Thierry Henry.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Very, very welcome to a special episode of the Arsenal Lounge. We've got star-studded lineup. Before we start, just about a thought for Jose Antonio Reyes and his family. Obviously, today's his anniversary of his death, so our thought and prayers are his family. I'm sure you all with me on that. It was a great player for us. I remember when he came on half-time and all the goosebumps and everything. So our thoughts and prayers with him and his family at this time. How are you guys? Mike, you good?
Doing good, man. Middle of the afternoon here. I see you wanted some American representation. I'm not sure the chat room wants that, but we're giving it to them anyway. So thanks for having me on again.
No problem. Mo, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Surprisingly, or maybe unsurprisingly, I'm not missing football at all. Usually I am. Maybe that's because I've been on holiday. I haven't really been thinking about it. But now that I'm back, it's not like I'm looking at it thinking, weekend football. I'm actually glad I've got a break from the roller coaster that is Arsenal Football Club.
Yeah, very good. Lev, how are you, my friend?
I'm good, Shaheen. Just
everything good?
Here talking. Yeah, great.
Yeah,
just
good stuff,
waiting for the Depp Heard verdict. It's about 8:00 our time. So yeah.
How is that?
Yeah.
I didn't even know. Mr. Judges, how are you?
I'm all good, thank you very much. I'm a little bit like Mo. I'm not worried about football at all. I'm glad it's all finished, and I'm not looking forward to when it starts again, unless there's some madness in the summer.
Okay. Just before we start, right? So I'm just going to play a little clip. This is what happened last time that Mr. Lee Judges was on our channel. And I'd like the explanation after this, please. So let's have a watch, please.
Welcome to another edition of the Arsenal Lounge with myself and my fellow. I love this guy a lot. I've been looking forward to having him for a little while. Lee Judges. How you doing, bruv? You good?
I am all good, my man. Listen, it's been a while. You know what I think of you, and when you said Shanine's on holiday, I said, get me on, I
know,
What the fuck was that about, Mr. Judges, eh? What was that about?
Listen, I'm going to tell you this now, Shanine, right? Lev is a bad influence on me. He gets me to say things, and
You're better than that, Lee. You're better than that.
I know. I should be better than that, and I'm not going to be led astray like that no more.
Very good. I'm glad to hear that.
Can you air your insecurities somewhere else and just I
was surprised.
Leave him alone.
I was actually on holiday and I was watching this and I was like, where did that come from? What have I done to this guy?
Some holiday.
But anyway, right, we're going to do this show for about an hour, and I know for the last 15 minutes we're going to have a little special guest as well. So
no, we're not. We're not.
All right, cool. No problems.
Originally, my wife needed to go somewhere.
No, nothing. Mo was going to have his son over because he was looking after him, but he's not anymore. So,
but yeah, my wife was going to go somewhere, but now she's changed her plans. So my son was going to make an appearance, but he won't anymore.
I can get mine on if you want as a substitute. I mean, he'll be home in a few minutes.
Nice, all right. We're good. I'm glad to hear that. So we're going to do the first half an hour, right? We're going to do season players rating. And on the second half an hour, we're going to talk about what should happen in the summer and for us to be excited about next season. And I know we all got all sorts of opinions here, so hopefully it will be a good one. I'm going to obviously call out the player. Do you guys want to give a rating one by one each player, or one everybody gives a rating? You choose.
Just everyone picks one, right?
So I can say, for example, Bernd, Leno, Lev, and then Mike will be Ramsdale, or Bernd, Leno, everybody.
Yeah, do it that way. Otherwise, we'll be stuck on one player and have to go through five people for one player.
Yeah, but if anybody got something to say about another player's rating, please, by all means, jump in and say. And obviously, I came up with something else, which is a bit of excitement.
When is he back on holiday, Lev? When is he back on holiday?
I'll let you know soon, Lee.
Are you looking for trouble, yeah?
Lee, you can see it runs smoother when I'm around.
I've done it.
And listen, there's something else I want to do. So every now and then, I found some funny quotes from Arsenal players or managers that I've said about other players in the past. So I'm going to say it and see who gets it right, just as a bit of a, in between thing. So let's start with the players rating. Lev, Bernd Leno.
Well, the guy didn't really play much, did he? But I'll give him a 5.
Yeah?
What's he done wrong? He's hardly played.
Okay. I'm just going to add something else to it as well. So when I give you a player, at the end, you tell me if you want to keep him or sell him.
Okay.
So keep or sell?
As a backup, I'd keep him.
Okay. That's not the reality. You'll probably be off.
Well, why ask me the question if you're going to just...
No, it's just your opinion,
Objection, by the way. On
Go
a
on,
5
Mo.
for Bernd Leno. You think he deserves more than a 5? I think every time he's come in, he's been very good. I can't remember a single mistake off the top of my head. And not only that, the reason why I'd really give him more than a 5 is just his absolute professionalism is something, as a fan, I've really, really appreciated. Because often you will talk badly about a player when they go and do something stupid. We've seen at United, the amount of nonsense, not just the player, but the player's agent or the player's girlfriend or the player's brother or this, that, the other. So much crap happens. Bernd Leno was first choice for all of us at the start of the season. No one expected him to be playing hardly any games, and he's been a consummate professional. I really like that. And not only that, recently he was pictured at the Monaco Grand Prix or something.
F1, yeah.
Someone, I'm not going to mention names or try and cause any beef or anything like that, but someone on Arsenal Twitter said, Benfica are in for him, this, that, the other. And he actually came out and said, your sources are wrong, and kind of like had a little joke about it, saying I'm going to sign for the F1 team. So again, kind of saying, like, no, I'm at this club sort of thing, and rejecting that rumor. I like that. I think Leno has really, really shown his professionalism here. So on that basis, I'd give him much higher than a 5.
I think he gets extra points for including his wife in that picture, because anytime he does that, we're good. I mean, he goes up to a 10 when he's pictured next to
10, All right. Well, speaking of points and reviews, Mike, Ramsdale for you.
I mean, one of, if not the signing of the season. There's no question he kind of tailed off at the end. A little bit of regression to the mean. I mean, unless you are, literally world class or one of the top 5 goalkeepers in the world, it would be hard for him to keep up the impact that he had on the team in the first 4, 5, 6 months that he played. But overall, I mean, he's going to get one of my higher ratings of everybody, and I'm giving him an 8.2. And I'm not trying to give out a lot of 8s and 9s like I would normally, after a win. If we're talking about, what they get for that day, I'm all full of 8s and 9s and stuff, but not for this. I'm mostly 5s and 6s with a few 7s, but Ramsdale is one of 2 players that got above 8 for me. One of the signings of the season, he came in with no clear mandate to be the number 1, took over at a time where Arsenal were absolutely struggling, gave them just this energetic punch to play better, to take more care at the back. And it's more than just his shot stopping. It's more than just his ability to play out from the back, which is really what exposed Petr Cech, what really exposed Bernd Leno, their inability to play out of the back. He just had a confidence and an infectious personality that really kind of he's the one player that I think not only improved the team on the pitch, but improved the relationship between the players and the fans to a degree that it actually helped on the pitch.
Okay.
He's I'm glad that I got him, because.
So 8.5 for you, yeah?
No, 8.23 for me. We have to be very exact here. I have a very scientific process. It involves beakers and test tubes and stuff. So yeah, 8.2.
Okay. So,
I don't even know about test tubes.
Lee judges. Curentini.
4.
4.
Yeah, not been there. Not been there enough for me. 2 parts of the season missed. I love him as a player and all that, but this has been a season with no European football, hardly any midweek games, and he's missed half the season. Too injury prone for me. Like a really big worry for me going forward, Curentini. Because
I was just going to ask that, Lee. Do you think it's an issue with his injury record?
Yeah, because like next season we've got Europe again. He hasn't been able to play. He hasn't been able to have a consistent chunk of games without with only playing one game a week. So you're resting, training, playing. Where now you've got to play, rest, play. I'm very very worried about that, and I just feel his reliability is a bit of a worrying issue now. So I like him as a player, but injuries happen too often, and even now they're sort of talking about. I was reading a thing today, rushing him back. Why the hell would you want to do that? Rushing him back for what? Just take your time with him.
For the Scotland game?
No, like for the beginning of the season. It's a worry. It's a worry for me. Big worry.
Can I ask a question, kind of a logistical question on the rating system, because I'm interested in this. I don't disagree with rating him low because of his lack of reliability, but take a guy like Leno who had very limited opportunities because he was supplanted by Ramsdale, and compare him to Tierney, who had limited opportunities because of his own fitness. In one case, we're kind of not holding his limited opportunities against him. In the other one, we are. Is that what? Do we all agree that that's kind of part of what goes into the player rating, or are we just rating how they played when they were on the pitch, and not holding being a backup or injury against you?
I think maybe through season as a package during the time that they've been on the pitch, obviously the injury record, everything about them in the whole season.
Yeah, but it's a really good question you pose, Mike, because it's like, I guess what we could say is that it's match readiness, and Leno was match ready.
Right.
And he proved that, but Tierney proved that largely wasn't match ready.
Well, Leno's not playing didn't hurt us as much because we had a better player in there versus Tierney's not being able to play hurt us because we had a lesser player in there.
But I wouldn't pin that on the player in terms of affecting their rating, but quite simply, if he needed to be there, Leno was there, but Tierney simply wasn't. So, people might say Lee's being a bit harsh. I would be one of them because, I really like Kieran Tierney. And remind me, at the start of the season, wasn't that what Arsenal were all about? Tierney.
Yeah.
So at one point, he was the absolute crux of our team. He was our most creative player from that left-back position, which is crazy. So I think, a little bit harsh, but I can see Lee's point.
Oh, yeah, I can see Lee's point as well. Mo, Ben White.
7. I think Ben White, it's his first full season at this level. He obviously did very well for Leeds when they were getting promoted. Brighton's a different kettle of fish. At this sort of level of a team, it's his first bite of the cherry. Huge transfer fee to justify, and we've seen that can really weigh down on certain players. And also a very, very shaky start to the season where he took some serious public scathing criticism. I think all in all, to bounce back from that and to be as consistent as he has been, I'd give him a 7.
Okay. I'm just with him, that day, what he said about Patrick Vieira for me was...
You're still smiting about that?
Yeah, that was big for me, man. That was... Anyway. Lev, Gabriel, Magalhaes.
7.
7? No, what did you give to Ben White? 7.
Yeah.
If you give... Surely
I think Gabriel had a better season than White. But it doesn't mean I agree with the rating that Mo's given, but I'm giving a 7.
All right, fine.
Is that all right?
Yeah, it's all right. Mike?
I just want to interrupt real quick, because I think this is one of the most interesting questions that, like, when I talk to Arsenal fans about this season, who had a better season, White or Gabriel, in people's opinion?
I'm always going to sit on the fence on that. They do different things, and they both do them well. Ben White does something for our team in progressing the ball up the pitch that no one else can do. Gabriel's the one I'd prefer being one-on-one with as a defender with somebody coming in on goal. So I mean, I look at their partnership together when they really started getting experience playing next to each other. I think as a unit, that was a partnership that we haven't seen in the last few years, where we've gone Holding, Mari, Luis, Gabriel. I mean, it's just been mishmash, and I like the two of them together, which is apropos to them both getting 7s. But it's hard to say which one's better because they're really two very different center backs in my mind.
Well, I know someone who won't sit on the fence, Mr. Lee Judges.
No, I think Gabriel's probably just had a slightly better season because
I agree.
He's been there a bit longer. That helps. I don't think that he had the price tag.
Gabriel all day long.
Yeah, so I agree as well. I think Gabriel.
But doesn't he lose too many teeth, though? I mean, are we going to count that against him? Because there's at least 3 teeth that fell out this season, and that's
Gabriel's performances tailed off towards the end of the season, though.
But
it did. And you see, Lee, you say that, right? I don't know if you guys agree or not, but I think with Gabriel, I can always see like a stupid move in him, like a rush of blood moment. I think he's got that in him. I don't know if you guys noticed that or not.
Is that a Brazilian center back thing, or is that like Luis had that as well?
Yeah, I mean, there's always.
I guess Mustafi had that as well.
He's an aggressive defender. It means he takes chances. He takes more risks trying to win the ball. And what makes him good also can be his weakness. He can improve on it, but as a unit, if he's got someone covering him, I prefer Gabriel. And I even think I said this before. If Saliba comes back, I could see him taking White's position, but that's another story entirely.
But Shaheen, I agree with what you say, and Lev said what you said there in terms of he takes more risks, and I think you also see that on the opposite end of the pitch, where Ben White scored no goals, Gabriel got 5 Premier League goals, which is a brilliant return for a central defender.
That is. I must admit. Can I just ask you guys a question, and it's just a simple yes or no as an answer, right? Lev, is Saliba better than Ben White?
It's hard.
Yes or no? No, yes or no?
For me, yes.
Mike?
No, not yet.
No, as we speak, no, yeah? Okay, Lee?
No.
No?
I'm not.
I'd say probably yes.
I'll go with the yes as well.
Mike
and Lee say no.
I quite like Ben White, by the way. I quite like Ben White. I think he's done all right. Very, very good. Comes out of the ball. Saliba's not Premiership proven yet, and as you can see that we're all criticising Ben White. It's not easy being a Premier League defender. But for me, I think Ben White gets a little bit of a harsh deal on that. I don't think he's. I quite like Ben White. I've got to say.
I try to say that, but he shut me down.
At the end of the player rating, we're going to come to the selection next season, that sort of, and in details discussion about these players. So I just want to get this done and out of the way, and then we'll come back to this. Do you want to say something more?
I was just wondering, because Lee, do you feel like 7? Like obviously, I gave Ben White a 7. Was that a fair rating for him?
I would have probably gone 6.5, 7. Yeah, listen. I think people are judging a little bit like Pepe. They're judging Ben White on the £50 million transfer. Don't do that. Just judge him for what he's doing. He's a good ball playing central defender. Comes out with the ball really well. He's a different player to Gabriel. He complements to Gabriel. Gabriel complements him, as what Mike was saying, a good partnership. I like Ben White. I think that he's not top notch yet, but I think he'll improve. I think he's a good player.
Okay, Mike, Rob Holding.
Oh, Rob Holding. I mean, he's meant to be a 4th choice center back, in my opinion, and he's not a bad 4th choice center back, possibly 5th choice center back, and I'm fine with him staying that way. His wage packet is quite reasonable at $40,000 a week. I mean, look, he's a guy that can put players in his pocket if he's on, and then he can absolutely get destroyed like he did against Son against Tottenham. I mean, he had an absolute mare in that game. There's no question about it. But he's the guy that you can plug in, and it isn't just in that FA Cup final against Costa. He's a guy that you can plug in and do a surprisingly good job in short spurts. So again, he should not be the starting center back for any Premier League team, but when he came in, I gave him a 5.87, above average for the role that he's supposed to play, but he's not the type of guy, clearly he's 4th choice at best if we bring Saliba back, and I'm all right with that. So okay, the long answer to the short question is 5.87.
Thank you. Mr. Judges, Cedric Suarez.
Oh, that's a nice one.
That's a difficult one. That's a difficult one. Do you know what? He done well when he came in, I think. Do you know what? He is a backup. That's what his job is. I think he backed up well. I'm going to say that. Played more games than he should because Tomiyasu was injured far too long. But for a backup right back, come in and done a decent job. I think he'll be a good backup again for next season. going into Europa League, playing in the Europa League. So keep our Premier League squad rested. So I think 6 out of 10 for Cedric. I thought he'd done okay.
6.
I think that's a bit generous, but okay, fine. More Tomiyasu.
For me, absolutely brilliant. I think he has been arguably the best signing of the bunch. I really think that because he's so consistent. Whilst we say Ramsdale tailed off at the end, his distribution at the start was very different to what it was at the end. But with Tomiyasu, I feel like he's just been really, really brilliantly consistent. So I would give him an 8. Absolutely delighted with him. I think we beat the market in terms of what we paid for him versus what we got out of him. And he suits Arsenal's system with that inverted role perfectly.
Okay. Lev, Nuno Tavares.
It frustrates me because I know there's a player in there, but based purely on his performances this season, when called upon, I'd have to give him a 4. A 4, because when he first came in, he done a decent job. If you remember when Tierney first got injured,
he kept Tierney out when he was rehabbing. I remember the Watford game. We were sitting in the corner of the North Bank, and Tierney was warming up the entire game, and Tavares kept him out.
Yeah, he was great. But then he had that one rocky game. I think it was the Liverpool game, the first one. And it just all went pear from there. So 4 for the season, but I do think there's a player in there.
Okay.
Let me ask you a question. Can I ask a question on Nuno?
Yeah.
Had a lot of debates with people about, I mean, look, Nuno was kind of sacrificial lamb a couple times this season. Getting subbed out in the first half, having Xhaka preferred at left back over him. And I'm not necessarily agreeing with those moves, but it was a stick that a lot of people used to hit Arteta over the head with, rightfully or wrongfully, is that he was destroying Nuno Tavares. Do you guys agree with that? Do you think that, because from what I've heard from his limited interviews, the guy doesn't seem to be destroyed from a man management standpoint. He understands his role in the team, and it was just kind of one of those tough learning experiences. And other people were playing as bad as he was, but do you think real damage has been done to him by those experiences, or do you think it's just part of being a young, inexperienced player on a new coach's team?
Yeah, I think that it will have some sort of effect on him.
So you think there's an issue then between you think there's another example of Arteta, quote unquote, killing a guy?
No, I wouldn't say he's killing him, you know what I mean? But as a player, I've played at football. If you're a midfield player and they're bringing in a central defender to play your position, it's not a good fit. You know what I mean? Like if you're that player, I do think the way that he was treated weren't good, but it it's now on the character of Tavares more than what Arteta's done, because I think being substituted for the game against Nottingham Forest wasn't the right thing to do. But I'm going to say this: he did come back. I thought he'd come back and done quite well, but he needs to get out and get games and be a loan signing. As far as I was concerned, I don't understand from the thought, is what you just said, Mike, earlier on. He was keeping Tierney out of the side at one stage when we were saying, well, we don't have to rush Tierney back. Something went outrageously wrong, and I think it was that Nottingham Forest game. That was the one that
I agree. Mike, Thomas Partey.
Oh man, the rating that I'm giving him is 7.24. He started to show his worth this season. I mean, honestly, we've now seen what he's capable of and the impact that he has on our team when he's healthy and he's playing. I mean, he's the engine. He's a player that is every bit worth what we paid and what we pay him, what we paid for him and what we pay him. And but again, with the injuries, it's just so aggravating, because between Tierney, Tomiyasu, and Partey, I mean, those are 3 of our best players, and the reason that we had success when they were healthy. And I just don't have confidence next season that we're going to see them for more than half the season. However, in the role of kind of rating his play when he was available, finally got on the score sheet a couple times, though not with his foot.
Yeah,
we'll got to figure that part out. But Yeah, I mean, if he stays healthy next season, I could see him being an all-out 8.5, and a reason for our success. If he doesn't, I can see us struggling if we don't have good cover for him. But 7.24.
Big worry for me as well.
Yeah, Lee, Bukayo Saka.
8.
Okay, pleased with him, is it?
Been our best player. Says it all really well.
Do you think shout for player of the season, Lee?
Yeah, I think so. I think that it's a worry when you've got a 21-year-old or 21-year-old being player of the year.
Yeah, there's a lot I'd like to discuss about Saka in the second part of the conversation. So I'm just conscious of the getting ratings and move on. Odegaard more.
Odegaard has been good. It's different. You can paint a brilliant picture of Martin Odegaard when you look at sort of chances created and that sort of thing. But when you actually look at expected assists, he ranks a bit lower than maybe what the chances created would suggest. But I think for Arsenal fans, we get to see all of the work that he does that doesn't make the highlight reel, and that's in terms of the silkiness of his play, keeping the game ticking along, and then even more importantly, how much he leads the press and leads by example in terms of off-the-ball work. I would give him a 7.5. I'm happy with Odegaard. And again, like I said about Tomiyasu, signing him for 30 million, we beat the market. That's incredible value for what we've got in a player with Martin Odegaard. Very happy with him, but I still feel there's a level to go up. But with better players around him, with better movement around him, I definitely think we'll unlock another level out of Martin Odegaard, but he's not the sort of generational talent that can do it all himself. He does need those players around him to get the best out of him.
Well, for him to have the season he did with the players around him that he had is I mean, it brings optimism as long as we keep the improvement of the players on the pitch around him. I can't believe he's only 23. I mean, he's been playing football since the Thatcher administration.
Yeah. I'm just going to ask you guys a question as well. So again, just a yes or no on that, right? Just before I do that, you trust Tom to give Martin Odegaard 8.5, Mr. Canton. So just a yes or no. Full-time Arsenal captain Martin Odegaard, Lev?
No.
Mike?
No.
Shit. If we're going to give it to one person, I would probably give it to him, but I'm clearly not convinced over that. I still don't know that our captain.
So it's a no. It's a yes or a no, Mike. It's not in between.
It's never a yes or a no with me. No.
Thank you, Mr. Judges.
I just said yes.
I don't know. At this moment in time, it's a no. What I see of him at the end of the season, it's a no. I didn't see great leadership at Tottenham. I didn't see great leadership at Newcastle. So, at the moment, a no.
Okay, Mr. Haider?
He's a contender, but I'd say no. For me, I'd love it to be Tierney, but injuries make that a no as well.
It's a full answer on that one. Then it's a no. I'm sure Tom disagrees, but that's for another day.
He's a contender. Though. He is a contender. You get different types of captains. Odegaard leads by example.
Maybe third or fourth in line for me. Emil Smith-Rowe, Lev.
Oh, I love ESR. I don't think we've seen the best of him yet, but you can only go. To be fair, he scored second top scorer, despite not playing that much. So, you have to be fair and say 6.5 for getting second top scorer despite not playing.
I think that's way low.
Way too
think
low.
So?
Way low.
What did you give?
I got 7.83 for him.
6.5. You just said he's our second scorer and you give him 6.5.
He got double digits in goals.
Listen, it's my rate. If I want to say 6.5, I can say 6.5. There you go. I've said it.
Well said, Lev. Well said.
Thank you, Lee. Thank you.
You see, Mike, you see what I have to deal with every show we do.
Oh, trust me. I've been dealing with Lee for a long time. I know what it's like.
Mike, Sammy Lakonga.
Almost an incomplete, but I'm going with 5.22.
Really that high? Really that high? Really that high?
Well, because
you tell me.
He reminded me a lot of when we first brought in Guendouzi. He was kind of one for the future, and then very, very quickly became one for the present. And I don't mean to open the whole Pandora's box on Guendouzi, but just from that perspective, I don't think we expected to see a ton of Lokonga this season, and then for various reasons, injury and suspension and otherwise, we did. And I think he showed some promise early on and then kind of regressed to the mean a little bit. So that's why I'm giving him something that's very close to the middle, giving him close to a 5.
Okay.
I'd like to see what he has, but he's not the answer. We still need to sign talent that's better than him for that position.
No, definitely.
Europa League player next season.
Yeah, and we'll discuss that as well in terms of signing. Lee, Mohamed El Neni.
Listen, I'm going to go 5.5 because he done really well when he come in. I've got to say that. I thought he played really, really well. I'm bordering on a 6. I thought when he come in, he done really well. Again, prove the manager. Proved that the manager's got doubts because, like, you know, to take Xhaka out of the midfield and not put him in there, only put him in that Chelsea game on is incredible. Like, because, you know, he proved the manager wrong a little bit by doing that. But I thought when he come in from the game from Chelsea till the end of the season, he was superb. I've got to say that. He'd have been a 7.5, 8. I don't think he had a bad game. But
he was gone. He was going to go to Turkey. It fell through, and he fought his way back to the squad. He had his.
So you have to give him credit for that. But where was he at the beginning of the season and times when we needed him? Why wasn't Mikel Arteta playing him then? And now all of a sudden he's got a new contract. It's a bit of a worry.
Desperation.
Bit of a worry for me, like going into the transfer windows. But forgetting about that, he's all-round player. I like El Neni as well because he is a squad player. He knows he's a squad player, and I think that you need to have players like that in and around the squad, and they're very, very hard to find. Very, very hard to find at any level that's happy to just play second fiddle. So, big admiration for him.
Oh, it's the holding impact. It's the same kind of player, reasonably priced, can do a job in most games, and you know, that's kind of veteran leadership that you need to be able to play. I think you can do a lot worse than Lokonga and El Neni, you know, in group stage Europa League against, you know, Apoel, Nicosia, or, you know, Midfielder or whoever we're playing in those games to save our top midfielders for the Premier League.
Yeah. Mo, Granit Xhaka.
I think he's had a decent season, Granit Xhaka. I think it's been a long time since the Arsenal fans were up in arms about a stupid red card or a stupid lack of concentration or something like that. It's funny because I think this links in with El Neni. He's been his partner in for a long time now towards the end of the season. And I think Lee's very harsh giving El Neni a 5.5. I think El Neni's been fantastic. I think with El Neni coming in, there's been countless times that El Neni's been the one to drop deep and beat the press, and Xhaka hasn't necessarily had to do that. Also, with Tierney being out, Xhaka has not played that sort of more deep-lying role covering the left-hand side. It's allowed Xhaka to be a little bit further up the pitch where if he does make a mistake, it doesn't lead to a goal or a chance. And I feel like that suited Xhaka more. So I think it's been a decent season for Xhaka. I'd give him a 6.5 or a 7, you know, around that. And it's a bit of a renaissance, actually. There's been a lot of propaganda about Granit Xhaka, a lot of effort taken to repair his reputation. And I think some fans getting a bit carried away with that, talking about, you know, you can't replace him and he's the most important player at Arsenal. I don't agree with all of that, but it's been a good season for him. Especially
didn't he sit him next to Lee Judges once to repair his reputation?
Yeah.
Didn't work.
I've made him the player. I've made him the player he is.
It's all because of Mr. Judge's magic, Lee's magic. Lev, Alexander Lacazette.
He was
Today
doing
would be
all right.
nice. I'm gonna.
Why is it everyone else can say stuff, right? The minute I go to say something, you shut me down and move it along. All right,
No, I'm
okay.
not.
So
Go on.
he had a decent start to the season, and then he got regressed. He started to get progressively worse. So I'd give him a 5.
Okay, 5. Mike, Nicholas Pepe.
Oh, Jesus. He's the one player I'm giving sub 5 to. And let me preface it by saying that he didn't have a tremendous amount of opportunity. There were times where he was given opportunity and did well with it. There were more times when he was given opportunity and did absolutely nothing with it. I mean, the way he finished off probably his Arsenal career with us at the end of this season with that moment of idiocy where he should have just driven down with the completely open goal in front of him, and he didn't.
Should have scored that.
I mean, that's worth like a negative -2 points for the entirety of the season, just that by itself. But he's a 4.83 for me.
Okay.
Got to sell him this summer. I mean, forget about this. The 72 million hasn't mattered for 4 years. Sell him, get something back for it. The guy will do great back in France, and his season just was subpar. It's not going to work.
Yep. Okay, Mr. Georges, Eddie Nketiah.
Oh.
How nauseous all of our players are making us. Like every time you say somebody, it's like, whoa.
I'm going to go 6 because do you know what? He proved me wrong a little bit when he came into the team. I felt that.
Did it? That's a big thing coming from you because you were like me. I was like, listen, the guy's not good enough. End of.
Yeah.
Move on. Whatever.
But he scored goals. I thought towards the end of the season, from the Chelsea game onwards, he done okay. If he's leading the line next season, I'm not going to be happy. I know that's a bit harsh, but that's how I feel. I think we need to improve if we going to be doing anything. But I think that he done okay, and I have to say that I thought that there was some good performance. Even when he didn't score, he contributed. I know there were some games when he came on as a sub. I remember a couple of games he came on, and I think Pepe took a lot of credit for the one against Wolves, but he come on and done well in that game. And he nicked a few goals, so you can't do much. I don't think he could have done no more than what he done. When you look at, he scored more goals than Laka, and he only had like half the games or even less than that, and so he's getting a 4 or 5. So for me, 6.
Okay. Mo, Gabriel Martinelli.
6.5. Decent season. Would have liked to have seen more from him, given the level of talent that he's got, but often disrupted with not being in the team for whatever reason. 6.5. Hopefully next season, new shirt number, more responsibility, faith placed in him. Hopefully he can go and explode.
Okay. This one, I want everybody to give me an answer. Mikel Arteta. Lev.
We'll all say 6. I'll say 6 myself.
Mike?
This is where I lose the chat room. I feel the need to explain. I look at what Mikel Arteta is doing in 2 categories, and I'm not just this. Sorry, this is a longer answer than you wanted, but I'm not just this. The results are all that matters. We finished 8th, he sucks, or we finished 4th, but we didn't deserve to finish 4th somehow. He's a 5.9 for what we did on the pitch this season. The number would be higher if it were not for just woeful inconsistency and the ability to just take games that needed to be taken against lesser opponents. We won games we probably didn't think we would win. We lost a lot of games or dropped points in a lot of games that we absolutely should have won. And the team's performance in those games has been just, Newcastle, for example, when there's everything to play for and the team just didn't show up. It's hard not to put a little bit of that on Arteta. For the rest of the situation, which I pay attention to, others might not. off the pitch stuff, fan relationships, dressing room, personnel decisions in the 18, not necessarily in the starting 11, I give him a 7.6. I think he's doing a lot more. He's doing bits in reforming and rebuilding this team structurally, but the on-pitch product, which ultimately matters the most in the end, is lagging, despite doing a lot better this season, finishing 5th than a lot of people predicted. So if you have to average the two together, I'm giving him about a 7, but there's nuance to it.
Lee?
Yeah, I like what he's done off the pitch, but unfortunately, that's not what a manager's about. He's not what he's there to do. He's there to win games of football.
It matters only if it eventually affects the on-the-pitch results.
No. A manager is there to win games of football. Let's get that clear. Let's get that clear. And this is the problem with Arsenal fans. He's not there to be a cheerleader. He's not there to be the financial guru. He is there to win games of football. That is what a manager is there to do. He picks a team to win games of football.
Preach, Mr. Judges, preach.
And the tactics against Tottenham worry me. Big games, situations where he, like Newcastle, when it was a big game, didn't turn up. Happened at Villarreal, ain't learned his lessons. Too many defeats in there. But I will say this: when you lose games, it hurts and you remember a little bit more. But I think he's got to take credit for wins, say, against Chelsea. I also got to say that the game against Manchester City, the way we played that day, and even though we lost that game, even though he wasn't there, which is a bit of a worry. Yeah, it's a bit of a worry. But the way we played that day was very encouraging. But he wasn't there. But I don't want to put that against him. There is something for me there. But for me, I think that it's been too inconsistent. 13 defeats. I can't get away from the fact that 13 defeats is not good. I don't care what Arsenal Football Club. It might be good for some teams. That's not good enough for Arsenal Football Club. And that is why I can only give him 5.5.
Okay. No?
I agree, 5.5. 13 defeats in the Premier League this season.
That's let alone not Forest. We're forgetting about that one.
Yep. Yeah, I'll get to that, Lee. Don't worry.
Okay. Well, thank you, mate. Thank you.
Starting with the Premier League, 13 defeats. That's a third of our season. Of our Premier League season, ending in defeats. 1 every 3 games. Yeah. We turn up as fans and we see Arsenal lose. That's awful. That's really, really a bad return. Thankfully, we didn't have too many draws, and you managed to get 22 wins, which saw us finish somewhat respectably. But I feel like that's a bit too binary for me. I kind of feel like we're winning 22, losing 13. That's not a team that I feel like you're controlling your results and your own fortunes a little bit. You just don't know what you're going to get. And I feel like, we were predicting scores this season, on our Monday night, Shaheen and Lev.
Yeah.
Often we come to it just getting it wrong and not knowing what the hell to predict. And
it's impossible.
I look at certain games where Everton was one, Brighton was the other. I can't remember the other team, but they all played Arsenal. And when you step back a few weeks later and looked at that game amongst the form before and after, the Arsenal game was the only W they got. Everton.
Southampton. 1 in 12.
Yeah, Southampton.
1 in 12
that was
games they won.
Southampton, that was it. And I thought to myself, why is it Arsenal that we have that fragility? That other teams think that, okay, yeah, we can get something here. The fact that day up at Everton, really, for me, at that stage of the season, I thought to myself, Arteta's not the man. And then Southampton, like Lee mentioned, and then Brighton. But then obviously he made some amends with Chelsea and Man United. But for me, I always think that how I view a manager is weighted more to the business end of the season. What you do in the first 8 games is not the same as what you do in the last 8 games. And the last 8 games, unfortunately, things unraveled for Mikel Arteta. He simply was not able to stay on top of things and stay controlled, which we shouldn't be surprised about. He's an inexperienced manager with an inexperienced team. And I've been saying all season long that the average age is not something that we should be happy about. That could all come to a head at the end of the season if they can't deal with the pressure. And perhaps that's what we saw. In cup competitions, Carabao Cup semi-final, okay, well done. Semi-final, if that's something to celebrate. But you have come up against a Liverpool side that are one of the best in the world. But FA Cup, absolutely appalling. His decision-making in that Nottingham Forest game was awful. And to go out at that stage of the competition, just unacceptable. All of that with no Europe, I think was really, really poor. And on top of that, he got a promotion from head coach to manager 9 months into his reign. He spent the entire Premier League season this season as manager, as part of the recruitment team. What they did in January in terms of gambling and failing to convert what was an unbelievably healthy position, when you look at our last game in December prior to the January transfer window opening, when you look at that position, and his failure as part of the recruitment team to convert that into a top 4 finish, I think is really, really poor. Saying all of that, and that's the negative element of him, and I haven't even talking about some of the problems with players and that sort of thing. I'm just going to park that. Saying all of that, he has done certain things to improve the culture, and I have seen certain glimpses of a talented manager in there. That's what puts him just above that 5 mark for me and gives him the 5.5. Next season, no more excuses. Next season, it's his team. Next season, he would have had plenty of transfer windows, plenty of money spent, and we can't go on about his inexperience anymore. You've had your learning curve. That's the one thing I didn't want for an Arsenal manager, for them to do their learning on the job at my club. He's had that luxury. And not only that, he's had that luxury with his seniors, Edu, obviously with the blessings of Kroenke, coming out saying no expectations this year. The only thing they wanted to see this year was for the squad to play together. A manager of Arsenal Football Club should have more pressure than that. Next season, he has to convert all of this free reign that he's had into some achievement, a proper achievement in the form of a top 4 finish and a trophy. 5.5 this year needs to be a 7.5 and above next year.
And it's okay to say, I mean, my view on Arteta is season by season. The way I will look at his performance and evaluate the results next season is not going to be the same as it was this season. And I know to some people that's a foreign concept. And when I break out his, the culture and the dressing room and all that, I don't do that because it makes me feel good to think that the club is a happier place and that I sat in the stands, in a handful of games this season and it was a fun time. That isn't why it matters to me. It's building a foundation. If you're building a house, the job isn't always necessarily to build a house you can live in as quickly as possible. Sometimes the job is to take it at a pace where you're building a house that you can live in for 10 years and stand against weather and all of that for 10 years. And as long as I saw him this season making progress, beating teams that we hadn't been doing well against, winning away from home, which we hadn't been doing, mixed in with the disappointments and the immaturity of a young team and a young manager, as long as I saw progress there, I was going to be fine with that. And I ended up being fine with that despite the bitter disappointment at the end of the season. Next season, the shackles are off. And like Mo said, it's all on him next season. There are no more excuses. If we're sat in 8th or 9th place by the World Cup break, I don't see how his job is tenable at that point. And
I mean, I'm gonna come to that, Mike, in a bit. But before I do, Lev, do you mind reading out this super chat? You're mute, mate.
I think that's on purpose.
There you go. Can you hear me now? Yep.
Yes,
Wayne
right.
Sage. Sorry about that, guys. Wayne Sage, thanks you for your support. Love how some fans love to talk about the defeats, but ignore the wins. More than world champions Chelsea and 6 less than Liverpool, he says. Yeah. Oh. Still.
I'll answer that. It's a great point that he says. But as I said earlier, defeats hurt more than wins. When you win a game of football, your euphoria of winning that game is not as bad as it when you lose it. That's just natural. It's a natural human being sort of thing. So the defeats hurt, and that's why people remember the defeats more than the wins. And also, you're expected to win games. There are games that Arsenal are expected to win. So when you win it, you think, oh, say like Arsenal Burnley, right? Everybody's not going to go celebrating it and go mad about it because hold on a minute, you're expected to win that. But when you lose to a Burnley, it hurts, doesn't it?
Yeah, and also what I would say as well to what Wayne said is some of the games that we lost, and especially when you look at the end of the season from the position that we were. So it's not just about the fact that we won this number or lost this number, it's when those wins or defeats occurred. And I feel like that wasn't necessarily good enough in terms of closing the season out. But yeah, I see his point.
Okay. So obviously that's the player rating done. And since the season is finished, a few things that has happened. Mikel Arteta's got a contract. I mean, he's got that towards the end of the season. Eddie Nketiah, Mohamed Elneny, they both got their contracts. Summer transfer is here now. For me, I think this is probably, you always say this when it comes to summer transfer, but I think this is a massive, massive, massive summer transfer for Arsenal because everybody around us seems to be on a path of improvement. I mean, it pains me to say this, but Tottenham got Antonio Conte now for the full season. It seems that they're giving him some money. Ten Hag is going to Man United. I'm sure they're going to back him there. Chelsea's got a new owner. I'm sure that to make a statement, they will make a couple of good signings. It seems that it's all going in that direction. This is an open mic kind of thing for everybody. Is what would you like now to see from Arsenal? What do you expect? What do you want Arsenal to do in order for you to get excited? Because right now, I'm not. I don't think bringing Gabriel Jesus and having Eddie Nketiah as a backup is a great idea. Because if he gets injured, if he goes through a bad patch, which is normal for every player, then we're back to square one with Eddie Nketiah. And yes, he came in. Everybody talks about Eddie Nketiah, but I look at Eddie Nketiah for the past season and a half. I know he hasn't got enough chances, and I know I don't want to judge him for over 8 games that he's come in because these are the best 8 games. This was him putting himself on a shop window, if you like. He would have come in and done well in order to get a good move or a decent contract offer from Arsenal. We seem to be, I've always maintained this idea that we were never really in for Vlahovic. It was just something to keep the fans quiet until, as Arsenal does. We made a bid, but no, this and that. Because now we're not, again, looking at that sort of a caliber of a player anymore. Jesus is not Vlahovic. We seem to be putting a lot of crosses in the box and nobody to get at the end of it. Jesus, again, is not another header of the ball. So it's a massive, massive transfer window coming for Arsenal. And I'd like to get your guys' thoughts. And as Mike and Mo rightly said, right, the argument that Mikel Arteta has now and a lot of fans that are in his corner is that progress has been made. Right, we were 8th, now we're 5th. Next season, the progress is for you to finish in the top 4. That is next season's progress. And if that does not happen, as you guys rightly said, there's no excuses. There's going to be Europa League again. So there's going to be 2 games, Thursday, Sundays, not particularly easy. So yeah, open mic. Just you guys take turns or whatever you want to discuss.
Are you talking about excited as in what do we want? In
signings, because they need to make us fans excited by bringing good signings. Right now, we're all about Eddie Nketiah. Maybe he was off, and we all thought they're going to bring in a couple of good strikers. That doesn't look like it now. A couple of midfielders, the fullback situation. We all discussed this on a players rating. A proper right back, a proper left back as a backup. I know we all said Cedric has done okay, but for you to go on a run in Europa League and all that is a different story. So, yeah, so let's discuss this and see I want to see what you guys expect. What would make you excited? How do you think it will unfold?
Well, I want to see some decisiveness and ambition in this window. I don't want to see any more messing around. I don't want to see any more sort of leaving it and not being ready for the pre-season. Like every season we're never ready. We never got enough players. We never got our full transfer done before the season starts. So I want to see some ambition. I want to see 2 strikers brought in. I want to see midfield cover for Partey. I want to see a winger of the likes of someone like a Gnabry or someone really dangerous going forward. I don't want us to rely on Eddie Nketiah as number 2, and I want to see Saliba come back. That's what I want to see. I want to see ambition, and I want to see us go for top quality. There you go.
Mo, Mike, Lee, anybody? There's no turn in this. Just come in as you like.
I think we need to, the thing that we need to have is a strong competition at every single spot on the pitch. I mean, we already know who the competition for Ramsdale is going to be. It's more than likely going to be Matt Turner. Keep my fingers crossed that Ramsdale still stays healthy, because I don't really want to find out. I don't want the anti-American sentiment going up when Matt Turner comes in and pulls a Runnerson. But in every other position, I think we need to get depth. And I kind of worked out at 3:00 in the morning last night what I thought was a reasonable set of players to buy, none of which are likely to cost 80 or more million, including a free transfer. And I'm about to put it in the chat, but I mean, we need to grow our squad. We need to sign probably 7, maybe 8 players. And it's not encouraging. I know it's June 1st today, but it's not encouraging that there doesn't seem to be any links to anybody other than the people we've already bought and a 19-year-old out of Brazil. But I think we need to sell about 7 players, take whatever scraps that we can get for them, and buy the 6 or 7 players. But I mean, those players are Christian Nkunku. I think he's a talented player that can play either on the wing or centrally. He's not likely to command the wage packet that Serge Gnabry is. I mean, I think we could afford the transfer fee for Serge, but he's looking for $300,000 a week. It's going to be Alexis all over again type of situation in my opinion, and we can't do that right now. Okay. I think Gabby Jesus is if we stop playing to just put crosses in for the missing Olivier Giroud that we no longer have, or the Tammy Abraham that we didn't sign, then Gabby Jesus would be a fine center forward for the style of play that Arteta wants to play. So I'll put my plan in the chat and let someone else talk for now.
Lee, because sorry, Mo, I know Lee has got to go in a couple of minutes, so and I know you need to go as well, Mo. So you want to, Lee, tell us what your thoughts are, and then Mo.
Yeah, listen, I like Jesus, but for me, that's not going to be an exciting signing. We need to really improve up front. We need to get some proper strikers. A Calvert-Lewin or a Tony needs to be brought in. Someone like Mike's saying, they're suggesting that someone that can head the ball. And we need, and I keep saying it now, Arsenal Football Club are playing in this magnificent stadium without a world-class player. We need world-class players. You've got to part. World-class players cost money. Simple as that. I know what Mike's saying about $300,000 a week and all that. Gnabry would be the closest thing to a world-class player that we would have. For me, we get in Gnabry, that would be an exciting signing for us. Someone up front that's going to do different things, got pace, can score goals, someone different to what we've got. And I think that it needs major surgery up front, major surgery. And it's about time now. Listen, the difference between Tottenham and Arsenal at this moment is they've got 2 world-class players, so they can build around their world-class players. What we've got is young players, young, very, very good players. But we need them to step up, which is going to happen, because I think they will. They're potentially world-class players, but we need to bring in a couple of players there. So for me, listen, and it really peeves me off when people turn around and say, we ain't going for Gnabry, we ain't going for him, going for that. If we do not start thinking that we're a big club and whatever, we're going to be left behind, because that team down the road are thinking like a big club. And we have got to start thinking like what we are, a big club, and start making moves on that. And it happens this summer. As we quite rightly said, no excuses for Arteta no more, but there's no excuses for the Cronkies, and there's no excuses for Edu now. Get some world-class players at this football club.
Okay. Mo?
Yeah, what I want to see is the Cronkies finally back us financially. They have not put a penny into the club. There's one thing where some people try and praise them for not taking money out of the club, which I have done. It's gone. Got bored of my answer already. You're on mute, Lev.
One person's talking silently, the other person left.
I said, you carry on, Mo. I got you while I was muted.
So some people try and say that, they've stopped taking money out, or they don't take money out anymore. As far as I'm concerned, that's not enough. I want to see them actually contribute, actually do something to push us to success. And they haven't done that at any point. I worry now, without Champions League football, without that prize pot, on the horizon, are we really going to have enough to fulfill the ambitions that we have as fans in terms of pushing us up? Chelsea are an unknown entity because we don't know what the new owners are going to do, how much ambition they're going to have, and how they're going to deal with the fact that they're losing a lot of players on a free. Man United as well. Look, they're letting Pogba and Lingard go. For me, after what Rangnick has done there, I feel like it's going to be a cultural reset, and they're going to start a whole new project again. The difference between Arsenal and Man United when you're starting a new project is we've got project and a little bit of money. They're always going to have project and bag loads of it. They can afford to let a player leave for free, sign him on a 90 million, let him leave for free again. With Arsenal, that's sort of catastrophic. For United, whatever. You can sign flipping Harry Maguire for 80 million and still be all right. So they've got money to waste. We don't. That'll be tough to compete with them. We obviously know Liverpool and City are going to be very, very competitive. And Tottenham now are in a better position now than they were in 2 months ago, for example. Now, you can be pretty confident they're going to keep Kane, Son, Conte, which is, as far as Tottenham are concerned, the Holy Trinity there. So that means that the top 4 chase for Arsenal next season is going to be very, very difficult. That's why I want the owners to step up and finance a real push into that top 4 space so we can actually start moving on to the next rung of this Arteta project, Arteta phase. That's what I want to see. And no matter what we do, I think one thing that we have to be a little bit cautious about, we're all talking about world-class players and talking about Gnabry's and, this sort of player. But when we were just doing the player ratings, the player that I said was probably our pick of the bunch was the player I'd barely even heard of before in Tomiyasu. So I feel like, we should just learn our lesson there and have faith in what they do rather than basing our reaction on reputation, on the player's reputation. Just because they might sell loads of shirts doesn't mean they're going to be that great. And also it's about getting the right people. Look, Man United signed Ronaldo. They signed Varane. These are shirt sellers. They signed Sancho. These are all shirt sellers. But did they actually improve that team?
Well, that's where my list comes from, because it isn't necessarily going for the 80 or 100 million pound signings. Jack Grealish, Declan Rice, who probably would improve any team, but is only available to maybe 2 at his price. The Moneyball approach, is essentially what Liverpool used. They bought one player on massive money that everyone knew would be a can't-miss player, and that was VVD. Maybe Allison could be put in that as well, but it's always a risk when you spend money on a goalkeeper. See Kepa or Rizabalaga. They built. Salah was not world class when they brought him in. Mane was just Southampton player. They did it. I would rather emulate that formula because I think it's the only path we have to becoming consistent challengers for the title. We don't have the Chelsea of the past, the Manchester United and the Manchester City path. We don't. And that doesn't and that's not just because Kroenke won't put in money. We've been running deficits, whether COVID or not. We've been running deficits without Europe for the last 3, 4, 5 years. And I don't know where you think. Oh, sorry, Lee.
Sorry, Mike. Lee.
No, so I've got a couple.
Thank you for coming.
Great
man.
chat. Mike,
pleasure.
Always a pleasure. Mo, always a pleasure. Catch you later on, guys.
Take care, mate.
Mo, do you need to go?
No, I've got 5 minutes.
Okay, cheers, mate.
At the deficits we've been running, that is essentially covered by Kroenke. So he doesn't just say, okay, I'm going to give you 200 million pounds for transfer. I know you have an accounting background, so I'm not trying to talk down.
That's the thing, Mike. It's not covered by Kroenke. It's covered by Arsenal's own reserves. Kroenke is not. Ultimately, if you're making a loss, that stays within the club's books. It's not that Kroenke's saying, "Oh, I'll give you the cash to make up for that loss." It's just, if we carry on doing that long enough, he won't bail us out. We will just go bust.
I disagree with that, but and a little bit on the accounting side of things, but that's a conversation we could take offline. I think he has, since he took full ownership of the club, been willing to and demonstrated that he will put money in where it's due. Give
me one example of when he's done that. To my knowledge,
you can look at how that turned out, but the intent was to spend money in a situation where we were trying to get back to the Champions League.
No, but that's money that Arsenal have earned. There's a massive difference between what money Arsenal have generated for themselves through their own operation.
That is the way that all football clubs work, though.
No, it's not. No, it's not. It's not. No. Roman Abramovich has put a considerable amount of money into Chelsea.
Yes.
And when you look at the owner financing of top clubs, other clubs have had, mediocre amounts. I'm not saying anything to the Abramovich level. Other clubs have had mediocre amounts. Arsenal have had nil. And not only have we had nil, up to the point where Usmanov was a shareholder at the club, KSE have taken consultancy fees that haven't been itemized. They used to take £3 million a year, not even as a dividend. So that's not even after making a profit. They took it was getting too accounting, but above the line. So that was literally, a sham dividend that he was taking so that Usmanov wouldn't be able to get a dividend. They've taken money out of the club in the tens of millions because they did that on maybe 3 or 4 occasions, 3 million a pop. So I think, circa 10 plus million. So no, I have to disagree, Mike. They've not put anything into the club. All the money Arsenal spent is Arsenal's money. And if we carry on running a deficit, I've never heard anything from KSC where they say, we'll bail you out.
Oh. And that's what you get for getting involved in such conversations with an accountant, Mike.
Well,
there you go.
Look, I've got my own business background, not in accounting, and I've got, it's.
Have they? In a sense, I see both your points, but I guess what Mo is saying is kind of true. In this, we've got no guarantees that they will bail us out if with all the money they'll be taking out and all the money we're spending, right?
There's no guarantees that anybody will bail us. So there's no guarantees that Roman Abramovich wasn't going to call his. I mean, again, we're talking in hindsight now, but there were no guarantees that Roman Abramovich wasn't going to get up one day and say, "I want my £2 billion back." And if what happened with, I mean, that's not a sustainable business model either. It led to a lot of championships, and I know a lot of people would take that. I'm not downplaying that design and or the fact that he did everything that was necessary and that Kroenke hasn't done to make his team successful. I'm just saying that I don't think since 2018 that there's been any realistic move that Arsenal have wanted to make that the Kroenkes just wouldn't sanction.
In their defense, Mike, they did, in your defense as well, they did give Arteta quite a bit of money to spend.
And I know the money's coming from the club, but the money, but that's the case for most clubs. Usually, when an owner puts his own money into the club, a la Everton, a la a few other clubs, it's because they're losing a lot of money because they don't have significant revenues and they're not getting high TV money or they're not in Europe. That's why owners invest, is to make up losses. They don't just say, "Oh, we're a profitable team and we're just going to put in another £100 million to get new signings to take us to the championship." They put in money to cover losses in some cases so that they don't fall afoul of financial fair play.
Let me just give you some numbers here. And I'm picking this up from the Swiss Ramble. I've quickly Googled it, and he's done a great thread on this. So in terms of total financing, now total financing can be internal financing through your owners or external financing through lenders, banks or whatever. 2 clubs have received by far the most in the last 5 years. Tottenham, and this was in 2020. So this goes from 2015 to 2020. But, in the time I've got available to me right now, I can't pull up the very latest info. So in those 5 years, Tottenham got 521 million of total financing. Chelsea got 433 million. Man United and Arsenal had net cash outflows in terms of financing of 169 million for United, 101 million for Arsenal. So this is money going out, opposite of financing. Now,
the financing money for Spurs is a big bank loan to cover their stadium.
Let me just finish this point.
Let Mo finish, and then you can come in, Mike.
When it comes to owner financing, so this is literally the owners giving you money. Chelsea, 440 million. Everton, 299 million. Aston Villa, 193 million. Fulham, 186 million. Brighton, 160 million. Man City, 142 million. Wolves, 131 million. Arsenal,
other than Man City, what do all those teams have in common? They lose money. So their owners have to put in money to keep them from running.
No, the owners don't. This is a choice. This is a business model. Where you see a team like Aston Villa and Wolves, the owners could obviously be less ambitious. It's a reflection on the owner's passion and ambition for that project. With Stan Kroenke, he's simply a sports club owner. He doesn't seem to love or care about Arsenal.
I don't disagree with you on that one bit.
Yeah, and make Arsenal sort of his passion. This is just business, which is why he's not increasing any sort of funding or offering any funding to the club in order to improve the ambition or the potential success of the club. We've received £0 in owner funding. Not a pound has gone in since they've joined, yet they've taken money out. So, the thing is about numbers, they're sort of, you can't argue with them. It's simply not. I get that he doesn't have to. He doesn't have to give us any money. But when you're in a competitive landscape, when you're in an industry where all the clubs I just mentioned are receiving that treatment from their owners, it's very frustrating to be an Arsenal fan or a Man United fan when you're paying money to your owners.
I would be much more frustrated as a Manchester United fan because they are literally bankrupting not bankrupting, but they're using the club as their own personal ATM. Cash machine. I mean, what they're doing with dividends and the leverage is, I mean, I after all the last annual reports came out, I built up some spreadsheets and looked at projections because that's what I do. Not everybody's cup of tea, but I think it probably is more yours and mine, Mo. And that's a club that I would absolutely. I mean, I could see why they're revolting against their their ownership. Kroenke's issues, in my opinion, is not that they're not trying to win or wanting to win. It's that they don't care enough to just bend over backwards like some of the ownership groups that we've seen that have broken football are doing. Like they did in American football, you mean? They didn't do that in American football. Did they not? No. I mean, American football operates on a completely different economic system.
A huge stadium, haven't they? And they've put a lot of
that's a real estate deal that has nothing to do with the competitive ability of the football team.
Okay.
In America, the difference between the Rams and Arsenal is that the Rams have guaranteed revenues that are here, and they're only able to spend this much on player salaries and wages. How they choose to spend it and how they choose to structure those contracts which are non-guaranteed, which makes them also very different than in England and in world football. They're guaranteed a profit. Him building the stadium and taking all that money out had nothing to do with creating more money for the players because he's not allowed to do that. There's a salary cap.
Okay.
So, that's the fact that he, he put a lot of money and got good players for the Rams. The fact that he's done that with his hockey team, which is about to win a championship, by the way, in the next few weeks. Get ready to see that on your Twitter timelines. He gets another championship in America while Arsenal flounder. But
I just want to add on the Kroenke issue. The one thing that they have done, which is this just to really show you guys the limit of their generosity for Arsenal. Arsenal owed money to the banks due to obviously the stadium.
Yeah,
they took on that debt, not interest free. So basically, I owe Mike £100 and he's charging me £10 a year.
Where have you seen that it's not interest free? Because that I didn't see that deal had any interest that was going to be due to KSE from the club.
Well, I'd ask you the opposite question: where have you seen that it's interest free?
That's a fair question, but so I don't make an assumption one way or the other. I'm not assuming.
It's just anecdotal. From what I've seen, it's just anecdotal that it was a lower interest rate. And the fact of the matter is, since they have forcefully sort of bought these shares by acquiring a certain stake and then having to buy these shares from everyone, they haven't been transparent. They haven't been public with their finances because they don't need to. It's a closed shop now. We can't even really analyze the accounts. But anyway, that's what they've done. They've taken on a debt to an external lender, and they've made it a debt that the club owes the owners,
which is a significant move because it's basically turning external debt, which is what Tottenham are full. I apologize if the chat's not interested in this, but Tottenham's £500 million investment is bank loans for their stadium, which have them, they may have a much better deal on their stadium than we did because of the interest rates of the time and the television contracts of the time. I mean, they were able to hold off until it was a more optimal time, but they're well over £1 billion in debt to external forces.
It's a mortgage.
Whereas Kroenke turned almost all of our external debt into the same kind of debt that Roman Abramovich
I'm sorry. It's not the same sort of debt as Roman because what he converted was bonds, I think. We're still paying interest on the Emirates Stadium mortgage effectively. And Kroenke is just basically going to an organization like Arsenal, which is, let's face it, probably AAA rated in the world of football, and guaranteeing himself some money. There's a lot of other clubs where owners are doing interest-free loans to their clubs. And why have the Kroenkes not come out and said this is interest-free? Why have they not said that we'll convert this into equity like a lot of other clubs have? They're doing us no favors. We might have a reduction in the interest rate, but I'm sorry, I'm not going to accept that as some sort of generous offer from them. There's a lot more that can be done that is commonly and routinely done in this industry. So
Gents, I'm conscious of time because I know Mo's got to go. We've been running for an hour and 15 minutes. Any other financially motivated shows, we are definitely going to be getting both Mike and Mo. If you want to see Arsenal and finance with Mo and Mike, let us know very soon.
I've given some talks when the annual reports come out. I'd love to pick Mo's brain on that.
Right, it's been fascinating. You could go on for ages, and there's people in there.
I have a lot of spreadsheets, which I'm not as quick on my feet, perhaps, as Mo. I'm not used to talking into
only because I was able to Google it. That's the only reason. Listen, another thing that Kroenkes could have done. We'll cover the 4% increase this season. We understand there's a cost of living crisis going on in the UK. We'll cover that 4% increase. Have they done that? No. Give me a gesture. Give me an example, a gesture of goodwill, an injection of money. I'm sorry. I've got no time for the Kroenkes. I've seen nothing from them.
Brilliant. No, I think, I tend to agree with Mo, but this is a fascinating subject. I'm sure we'll pick this up again. Everyone in the chat, thank you for joining in. Mike, thank you for joining us. Mo, thank you for joining us. I don't know what's happened to... Well, I do know what's happened to Shaheen. I'll let you know what happened to Shaheen. He forgot his laptop charger. There you go. So he starts messaging me halfway through the show. Lev, I think my charger's going to die. Can you take over? I'm like, I don't know what you've got planned for this show. And then you two took it to this financial fairyland. So you saved me a little bit there, guys. But look, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to be doing a lot more shows. Keep an eye out. Hit the like.
Lev, it was great to meet you a couple of weeks ago, man. I really.
Oh, bro, it was honestly, it was a pleasure, and hopefully we could do it again when you come down soon. Hit the like, subscribe if you haven't already. You know where Mike is. Mike, would you like to tell everyone where they can find you?
Sure. You can find me at the Gooners Pod on Twitter. If we ever get back to podcasting, we have a YouTube channel, the Gooners Podcast. And of course, please check out goonersvcancer.com. We have about 140 entries left for the 89 signed shirt. Go to goonersvcancer.com. Check it out. It's an amazing Arsenal piece of memorabilia, and it's not too hard to win. So
yeah, Mo, do you know what the gift is? Yeah, do you know what the prize is? It's the 89 shirt. Yeah. Make sure. Mo, do you want to say anything else before we go?
No, you can find me on Arsenal Mo A on Twitter, Instagram, and just type in Mo Haider on YouTube, and you find my channel. Subscribe, and yeah, that's it. You'll catch all my match reactions after every single game next season.
Right. So this has been the Arsenal Lounge. I'm going to find out what's happened with Depp Hurd. Come on, Depp. And on that note, we're out of here. Peace out, everyone.
Take care.